one of the deepest teachings or lessons that I learned this year was to be fully authentic. Authenticity is a moment to moment thing. What in one moment feels authentic may become completely inauthentic at another moment, and we have to give ourselves permission to be inconsistent. Like one of the things that ego despises is inconsistency bias, right? So we, by all means, try our best to appear consistent to everyone else. Otherwise, we're gonna get cast away from the tribe for being a fucking weirdo. That's so the ego always tries to be consistent. But the reality is, today it might feel really authentic for me to make YouTube videos. Tomorrow, it might not. And then I just don't do it. So in this moment, what is arising? Being true to what is arising in every single moment. And so my decision-making process completely changed, because I used to make decisions from logic, like, oh, what's safe? What will lead to this? But now it's like, what feels right? Like the decision to come on this podcast. I haven't done a podcast in like maybe a year, maybe like 6, 7, 8, 9 months, because nothing just resonated. But then when your team messaged, I was like, wow, this feels right. This feels right, and it feels like the right time. And so I said yes. So it's like my decision making is like, okay, what feels like the right thing to do? That is authentic. So intention is, if we try to define intention, it's our resolve to have and to act. Inner intention is our resolve to fight, to act in order to get something, to do. Outer intention is that resolve to just have or to become one with, to be one with that thing. So if you're familiar with Florence Scovel Shinn or Neville Goddard talks about the law of assumption. The law of assumption is you live in the end, and then you act from the end. You be first, and then you do, and then the having will come. And so outer intention is a force that's beyond anything you could ever imagine. One touch of it, your wildest dreams will materialize. Like things that were beyond your wildest imaginations will materialize. Inner intention is more of, I will fight against the world to get what I want. And so in that sense, it's like the conscious mind. The conscious mind is 5% of our whole psyche, or of our whole being. The subconscious, unconscious, and collective unconscious constitutes of 95% of our whole being. So that 95% is outer intention, when we become one with everything around us. And so when we tap into this intention that is a win-win situation, typically, when you focus on benefiting yourself and also benefiting the world around you, you tap into this force that kind of magically makes things happen. So that force can also be tapped into when you focus simply on, I have made this goal and I will have it. I don't care what needs to be done. I don't care how it happens, and I don't care when it happens. I have simply made the decision. I said I will have it. What's the problem? It'll happen. That's it. But inner intention has all these presuppositions like, oh, in order for this to happen, that should happen. In order for me to grow my business, I need to do this marketing funnel and run ads here, and then that needs to happen, and I need to get this many customers at this LTV, and all this needs to happen. So that's more inner intention. And don't get me wrong, all of your goals can be materialized with inner intention. A lot of people are doing that, and they're preaching hard work, grind till you burn out. That gets preached all the time.
Hustle.
But that's actually, hustle harder. That's, the way I look at it is, that's the easy way to do it. That's a guaranteed way. Like, you can do it. It's just not going to bring you any fulfillment. I think the harder, more challenging way is, how can I have my cake and eat it too? How can I do nothing and have everything? That's something I've been thinking about. It's like the most efficient way to achieve what you want is by letting it happen by itself. So when you focus on how your goals get manifested without your interference, you're actually using divine will or outer intention for it to happen. So when I think about my goals and I can conceive that somehow it just happens, somehow something happens and my ideal life gets manifested. And, a lot of the times people kind of fall into a trap with this because they think, oh, I'm just going to sit on my couch and try to manifest. This is more so for people who have the propensity to work hard, and their whole lives have worked hard and grinded really, really hard to achieve their goals. And that hasn't worked. And that's only led to more and more suffering, more and more lack of fulfillment, But if you're someone who hasn't achieved that, you kind of have to go full circle, right? It's like in the beginning, you fetch wood, carry water, like the Buddha said. In the middle, you do all this crazy shit. And at the end, you fetch wood and you carry water. Like after enlightenment, you fetch wood, carry water. So you have to go through that journey to arrive at that. And at the end, what I notice is you stop thinking about all this shit a lot and you just start actually being. But in the middle, you have to think about all of this. It has to be a conscious competence before it can become an unconscious competence.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm viscerally feeling the pain of there's this Tim Ferriss quote that busyness is laziness, and it's just like searing into me right now, as just echoing around everything you've just shared in terms of, it's because actually doing the work is the harder path in so many ways. It's like bringing that level of order of between our inner intention, outer intention, our own free will, God's will, and allowing ourselves to surrender to that with attention. So when we talk about the law of becoming, there are three core principles: authenticity. The next part is pendulums, which I feel like we've covered quite a bit at depth in today's episode. Then part three, you talk about like, well, interestingly, you introduce it as kind of like all gas, all brakes. Like, can you tell us what you mean by that? Part three of the law of becoming.
Yeah. So a lot of the times in their resolve, when we talk about intention is the resolve to do and to have. Within that subsect of intention comes inner intention, the resolve to do, and outer intention, the resolve to have. The lack of concern of how it happens. When you have a very strong resolve, you're gas. You're all gas, no brakes. When you're half-hearted, you have a foot on the gas and a foot on the brakes. There's a great quote by Napoleon Hill which goes, "A weak plan executed with a definiteness of purpose will triumph over a strong plan executed with an indefiniteness of purpose." A weak plan executed with a definiteness of purpose, with a resoluteness of intention, will always triumph over a strong plan that is executed half-heartedly with brakes, half gas. And so it's crucial that whatever it is you do, you go all in. No half-heartedness, full resolve. Because what people fail to understand is even if it is the wrong plan or the weak plan, your resolve will shift you to a different lifeline where you just fall into the right plan. Your resolve is what makes the shift between different lifelines happen, right? And resolve becomes strong when our hearts and our minds are together. When we think about the goal and we feel one with the goal. When our heart and minds are completely working with each other, this shift in lifelines happens. It's kind of like the observation principle in quantum physics. When you observe the event, it materializes. And the observation phenomenon occurs with heart and mind coherence.
Hey there, Inspired Evolutionary. If you absolutely loved this, well then here's a full conversation with this guest on the Inspired Evolution podcast. Check it out now.